Welcome to Shahnameh, Book of Kings. Today we start a new chapter about Rostam and Esfandyar. I heard a story from a nightingale repeating words that came down to us from ancient times. One night, drunk and dejected, Esfandyar came from his father's palace and went to see his mother, Karian, the daughter of the king of Rum. He embraced her, calling her for more wine, and said, "The king treats me badly. He told me that once I've avenged the death of his father by killing King Rostam, freed my sisters from captivity, cleansed the world of evildoers, and promoted our new faith, Zoroastrianism, that he would hand over to me the throne and crown. I'd be king and leader of our armies. When the sun rises, he wakes up. I go to remind him of his own words. He shouldn't keep me from what's rightfully mine. My God, who guides the heavens? I swear that if I see any hesitation in his face, I'll place the crown on my own head and distribute the courtesy to the local lords. I'll be as strong and fierce as a lion, and I'll make you queen of Iran." His mother's heart was saddened at his words. Her silk clothes pricked like thorns against her skin. She knew that the king was in no hurry to hand over his crown, throne, country, and royal authority to his son. She said, "Brave boy, don't be so angry with your fate. The army and treasury are yours already. Don't overreach yourself. What's finer in all the world than a young lion-like warrior, girded for war, standing ready to serve his father? When Gosthasp dies, his crown, throne, greatness, and splendor will be yours." Esfandyar replied, "It was a wise man who said a man should never tell his secrets to women, because as soon as he opens his mouth, he finds his words on everyone's lips. And he also said a man shouldn't do what a woman tells him to, because none of them have any sense." His mother's face clouded with pain and shame, and she regretted having spoken to him. Esfandyar went back to his father's palace and spent 2 days and nights there drinking, surrounded by musicians and his womenfolk. Gosthasp brooded on his son's ambitions for the crown and throne, and on the 3rd day he summoned his counselor, Shahnameh, and had Esfandyar's horoscope cast. He asked whether the prince would have a long and happy life, reigning in safety and splendor, and whether he would die at another's hand or greet the angel Sarush from a peaceful deathbed. When Shahnameh consulted the astrological tables, frowns furrowed in his forehead, and his eyes filled with tears. He said, "Evil is mine, and my knowledge brings me only evil. Would that I had died before your brother Zaire, and not seen his body weltering in blood and dust, or that my father had killed me, and his evil fate had not been mine. Esfandyar subdues lions. He has cleared Iran of its enemies. He is fearless in war. He has driven your foes from the face of the earth, and he tears the dragon's body in two. But will not sorrow come from this, and the taste of bitterness and grief?" The king replied, "I trust you to tell me what you know, and not to deviate from wisdom's way. If he is to die as Zaire did, my life will bring a misery to me. You frowned at my question, but tell me what you see. At whose hands will he die, bringing me tears and sorrow?" Shahnameh said, "My lord, misfortune will not hold back because of me. He will die in Zabalistan, fighting with Zal's son, Rostam." Then the king said, "Take seriously what I'm about to say. If I give him my treasure, the throne and sovereignty, and if he never travels to Zabalistan, will he be safe from the turnings of fate? Will fortunate stars over him?" But the astrologer replied, "The heavens' turnings cannot be evaded. Neither strength nor valor will save you from the dragon's claws. What is fated will surely come to pass, and a wise man does not ask when." The king grew pensive, and his thoughts made his soul like a tangled thicket. He brooded on the turnings of fate, and his speculations turned him towards evil. At dawn the next day the king sat on his throne, and Esfandyar stood humbly before him, his arms crossed on his chest. The court was filled with famous warriors, and the priest stood ranged before the king. Then the mighty champion, Esfandyar, spoke, suffering with evidence in his voice. He said, "Great King, may you live forever. Blessed be the divine far. Justice and love emanate from you, and the crown and the throne are more splendid by you. Father, I am your slave, prompt to carry out all you desire. You know that in the wars of religion with Rostam, who attacked us with his Chinese cavalry, I swore before God that I would destroy any idolater who threatened our faith, that I would slash his trunk in two with my dagger and feel no fear. And when Rostam came, I did not flee from the leopard's lair, but drinking at your banquet, you believed Gosthasp slander, and had me hung with several heavy chains and fettered in the fortress of Gorbendin. Despised among strangers, you abandoned Balkh and traveled to Zavol, thinking all battles were banquets and forgetting the sight of your father, Lorasp, pierced by Arasp's sword, lying prone in his blood. When your counselor Jamasp came and saw me and wore away my captivity, he tried to persuade me to accept the throne and sovereignty. I answered that I would show my heavy chains to God on the day of judgment. He told me of the chieftains who'd been killed, and of my imprisoned sisters, of our king fleeing before the Turkish hordes, and he asked me if such things did not wring my heart. He said much more besides, and all his words were filled with sorrow and pain. Then I smashed my chains and ran to the king's court. I slaughtered his enemies and rejoiced the king's heart. If I were to describe my 7 trials, the account would never end. I severed Arjasp's head from his body and avenged the name of Lorasp. I brought here their treasures, their crowns, their thrones, their women, their children. I did all you had commanded me, kept all your orders, never swerved from your advice. You said that if you ever saw me alive again, you would cherish me more than your own well-being, that you would bestow the crown and ivory throne on me, because I would be worthy of both. And now when our nobles ask me where my treasure and army are, I blush for shame. What excuse do you have now? What's the point of my life? What has all this suffering been for? The king answered his son, "There is no way forward but the truth. You have acted as you say, and may God favor you for it. I see no enemy in the world, neither open nor secret, who does not shudder at the mention of your name. I say he gives up his soul there and then. No one in all the world is your equal unless it be that foolish son of Zal. His valor lifts him above the skies, and he thinks of himself as no one's subject. He was a slave before Kavas, and he lived by the grace of Khosrov. But about me, Gosthasp, he says, his crown is new, mine is ancient. No man anywhere am I equal in battle, not in Rum, nor Turan, nor Iran. Now you must travel to Sistan, and there use all your skills, all your ruses and devices. Draw your sword and your mace, bind Rostam in chains, do the same with Zavare and Pharamos, and forbid them to ride in the saddle. I swear by the judge of all the world, by him who lights the sun and moon and stars, that when you do what I have commanded you, you will hear no more opposition from me. I shall hand out you over my treasure and crown, and I myself will seat you on the throne." This was Esfandyar's response. "O noble and resourceful king, you are straying from the ancient ways. You should speak as is appropriate. Fight with the king of China, destroy the lords of the steppe, but what are you doing fighting against an old man who Kavas called a conqueror of lions? From the time of Manucher and Kekobad, all the kings of Iran have delighted in him, calling him Rock's master, world conqueror, lion slayer, crown bestower. He's not some young stripling making his way in the world. He's a great man, one who entered into a pact with Khosrov. If such pacts are wrong, then he shouldn't be seeking one with you, Gosthasp." His father said, "My lion-hearted prince, you've heard that Kavas was led astray by the devil, that he attempted to fly into the skies on the wings of eagles, and he fell wretchedly into the sea of Sari, that he brought a devil-born wife back from Hamaveran and gave her command of the royal harem, that Siavash was destroyed by her wiles, and the whole royal clan put in peril. When a man has broken his promise before God, it's wrong even to pass by his doorway. If you want the throne and crown, gather your troops and take the road for Sistan. When you arrive, bind Rostam's arms and lead him here. Watch that Zavaray and Faramoth and Sam don't trick you. Drag them all on foot to this court, and then no one, no matter how rich or illustrious he might be, will disobey my commands again. The young prince answered. As Lai spoke, he frowned. Enough. It isn't them you're circling round. You're not pursuing Zal and Rostam. I, your son, am singled out by you to die. Your jealous passion for your sovereignty has made you want to rid the world of me. So be it. Keep your royal crown and throne. Give me a corner to live in alone. I'm one of many slaves. No more my task is to perform whatever you ask. Gosthasp replied, Don't be too impetuous. But if you're to achieve greatness, don't hold back either. Choose experienced cavalry from our army, weapons, troops, and cash, all at your disposal. And any holding back will be because of your suspicious mind. What would treasure or army, the crown and throne be to me without you? Esfandyar said, An army will be of no use to me in this situation. If the time to die has come, a commander can't ward it off with troops. Troubled by thoughts of the crown and by his father's words, he left the court and made his way to his own palace. There were sighs on his lips, and sadness filled his heart. Weeping and in a turmoil of emotion, the beautiful Katayan came before her son, to whom she said, You remind us of the ancient heroes, and I have heard from Bayraman that you mean to leave our gardens and journey to the wastes of Zabalestan. You are to capture Zal's son, Rostam, the master of sword and mace. Listen to your mother's advice. Don't be in a hurry either to suffer evil or commit it. Rostam is a horseman with a mammoth strength. A river's force is nothing against him. He ripped out the guts of the white demon. The sun is turned aside in its path by his sword. When he sought revenge for the death of Siavash and made war on Afrazab, he turned the world to a sea of blood. Don't throw your life away for the sake of a crown. No king was ever born crowned. My curses on this throne and his crown, on all this slaughter and havoc and plundering. Your father's grown old, and you are young, strong, and capable. All the army looks to you. Don't let this anger of yours put you in harm's way. There are other places in the world besides Sistan. There's no need to be so headstrong, so eager for combat. Don't make me the most wretched woman both here and in the world to come. Pay attention to my words. They come from a mother's love. Esfandyar replied, Dear mother, listen to me. You know what Rostam is. You're always talking about his greatness. It would be wrong to kill him, and no good can come of the king's plan. There's no one in Iran who's finer or more noble than Rostam. All this is true, but don't break my heart, because if you do, I shall tear it from my body. How can I ignore the king's order? How can I refuse such a mission? If heaven wills it, I shall die in Zabul. But if Rostam accepts my orders, he'll hear no harsh words from me. His mother said, My mammoth warrior, your strength makes you careless of your soul. But you won't be strong enough to defeat Rostam. Don't leave here without warriors to help you, offering your life up to Rostam like this. If you're determined to go, this mission is the work of Ahriman. At least don't take your children to this hell, because the wise will not think well of you if you do. And as she spoke, she wept bloody tears and tore at her hair. Esfandyar replied, It's wrong to keep youngsters away from battle. If a boy stays shut up with women, he becomes weak and sullen. He should be present on the battlefield and learn what fighting means. I don't need to take an army with me. Men from my own family and a few noblemen will suffice. At cockcrow the next morning, the din of drums rang out. Esfandyar mounted his horse and set off like the wind at the head of a band of warriors. They went forward until they came to a place where the road forked. One track leads to the fortress of Gondabin, and the other to Zabul. The camel that was in the lead lay down on the earth as if it never meant to rise again, and though its driver beat it with a stick, it refused to budge, and the caravan halted. Esfandyar took this to be a bad omen, and gave orders that the beast's head be severed, hoping to deflect the bad luck he foresaw. This was done, and although Esfandyar was alarmed, he made light of it, saying, "A noble warrior, whose audacity lights up the world and brings him victory, laughs at both good and evil, since he knows both come from God, whom no one can oppose." Inwardly, afraid of what lay ahead, he reached the river Hermond, the border of Rostam's territory. A suitable place was selected, and the group pitched camp in the customary fashion. In Esfandyar pavilion a throne was placed, and his warriors assembled before him. The prince called for wine and musicians. Pashutin sat beside him, and as he drank and relaxed, Esfandyar's face opened like a blossom in spring. He said to his companions, "I haven't carried out my father's orders. He told me to capture Rostam quickly, and not to hold back in humiliating him. I have done what he ordered me to, because this Rostam is a lion-hearted warrior who has undergone many trials, whose mace has set the world in order, and in whose debt all Persians live, whether they are princes or slaves. I must send him a messenger, someone who is wise and sensible, a horseman who has some dignity and presence, someone whom Rostam can't deceive. If he'll come to me and dispel this darkness in my soul, if he'll let me bind his arms, and in so do bind the evil that haunts me, and if he has no malevolence against me, I will treat him with nothing but kindness." Pashutin said, "This is the right path. Stick to it, and try to bring peace between men." Esfandyar ordered his son Bahman to come before him, and said to him, "Saddle your black horse, and dress yourself in a robe of Chinese brocade. Put on a royal diadem studded with fine jewels on your head, so that whoever sees you will single you out as the most splendid of all warriors, and know that you are of royal blood. Take with you 10 reputable priests and 5 horses with golden bridles. Make your way to Rostam's palace, but do so at a leisurely pace. Greet him from me, be polite, flatter him with eloquent words, and then say to him, 'No one with any sense ignores a king's commands. A man must be grateful before God, who knows eternally what is good. If a man augments what is good and holds his heart back from evil, God will fulfill his desires, and he will live happily in this fleeting world. If he abstains from evil, he will find paradise in the other world. A wise man knows that in the end his bed will be the dark earth, and his soul will fly up toward God. One who can distinguish between the good and evil of this world will be loyal to his king. Now, we wish to reckon up what you have done, neither adding to or diminishing your achievement. You've lived for many years and seen many kings come and go in the world. And if you follow the way of wisdom and know that it was not right for someone who has received so much in the way of wealth and glory from my family to have refused to visit Lorasp's court, when he passed on sovereignty over the land of Iran to his son Gosthasp, you paid no attention. You wrote no congratulatory letter to him. You ignored the duties of a subject. You didn't travel to his court to pay homage. You called no one king. Since the time of Hushang, Jamshid, and Feridan, who wrested sovereignty from Zahak, to the time of Kekobad, there never was such a king as Gosthasp, not for fighting or feasting or hunting. He has adopted the pure faith, and injustice and error have hidden themselves away. The way of God shines out like the sun, and the way of demons is destroyed. When Arjasp attacked with an innumerable army, Gosthasp confronted him and made the battlefield a graveyard for his dead. Great men will talk about this exploit until the end of the world. He breaks the back of every lion, and all the east and west are his. They travel from Turan to China to Byzantium, and you'll see the world is like wax in his hands. The desert Arabs, brandishing their lances, sent him tribute because they have no heart or strength to fight against him. I tell you all this, because the king is offended by your behavior. You haven't gone to his palace or seen his noble courtiers. Instead, you've hidden yourself away in this remote province. But how can our leaders forget you, unless they have neither brains nor hearts remaining to them? You always strove for the good and held yourself ready to do your king's bidding. If your pains are reckoned up, they exceed the treasure you've accumulated. But no king has ever accepted that his subject could act in this contemptuous way. Gosthasp has said to me that Rostam is so wealthy now that if he sits drunk in Zavalistan and gives no thought to us, one day in his fury he swore an oath by the shining day and darkness of the night that no one would ever see you at his court unless it were in chains. Now I have come from Iran for this purpose, and the king ordered me not to delay in carrying it out. Draw back now, fear his anger. If you will go along with this and give up your contemptuous ways, I swear by the sun, by the spirit of Zaire, by my lion-like father's soul, that I will make the king take back his words, and that your glory will shine with splendor once again. Pashutin is my guide and witness that I have tried to fathom the king's purposes in this, and see no fault in him. My father is my king, and I am his subject. I can neither refuse his orders. Your whole clan, Zavare, Faramoth, Zal, and all the rest of your tried and true chieftains, should hear my words and take my advice. This house must not be left a prey to Persian warriors and destroyed. When I take you bound before the king and then go over your faults with him, I'll calm his anger and make him forget all thoughts of vengeance. I am a prince, and I give you my word that I will not let even the wind touch you. Bahman dressed himself in cloth of gold, placed a princely crown on his head, and set out from the encampment, his banner fluttering behind him. A proud young man on a splendid horse, he made his way toward the river Hermund, and as soon as the lookout saw him, he shouted out to his companions in Zavalistan, "A fine warrior on a black horse is coming our way. His harness tinkles with golden bells, and he's followed by a group of mounted soldiers. He's already crossed the river with no difficulty." As soon as he heard this, Zal rode to the lookout post, his lariat coiled at his saddle, and his mace at the ready. When he caught sight of Bahman, he sighed and said, "This lordly young man with his royal clothes must be someone from Lorasp's clan. May his coming here be auspicious for us." Pensively, his heart filled with foreboding, he rode back toward his castle, radiating princely pride. Bahman approached. He did not recognize Zal, and raising his arm, he called out, "My noble friend, where can I find the great Rostam, the prop of our times? Esfandyar has camped by the river and is looking for him." Zal replied, "There's no need for such hurry, young man. Dismount and call for wine and calm yourself. Rostam is hunting with Faramoths and a few friends. He'll be back soon enough. Rest here with your retinue and drink a little wine." But Bahman answered, "Esfandyar said nothing to us about wine and rest. Find someone to guide us to the hunting grounds." Zal said, "What's your name? Whose clan do you belong to, and what have you come here for?" "I think you're kin to Lorasp and descended from Gosthasp." Bahman said, "I am Bahman, son to invincible Esfandyar, lord of the world." When he heard this, Zal dismounted and made his obeisance before him. Bahman laughed and dismounted as well, and the two embraced and kissed. Zal urged him to saying that his haste was unnecessary, but Bahman replied that Esfandyar's message could not be treated so lightly. And so Zal chose a warrior who knew the lie of the land, and sent him with Bahman to where Rostam was hunting. He was an experienced man named Shirkan, and after he had led him a fair distance, he pointed out the way and went back, leaving Bahman to go on ahead. Bahman urged his horse up the mountain slope, and when he reached the summit, he gazed at the hunting grounds spread out below. He saw there a mighty warrior, a man massive as the cliffs of Bisiton, who had uprooted a tree and was using it as a spit on which to roast a wild ass, which he handled as easily as if it weighed no more than an ant. In his hand he held a goblet full of wine, and in front of him a young man was standing ready to serve him. Nearby, close to a stream, a clump of trees, Raksh stood cropping grass. Bahman said, "This is either Rostam or the sun itself. No one has ever seen such a man in all the world, or heard of this like among the ancient heroes. I fear that Esfandyar will be no match for him, and will flinch from him in battle. I'll kill him here and now with a rock, and so break Zal's heart." He tore the granite boulder from the mountainside and sent it tumbling down the slope. Zavaray heard the rumble of its descent and saw it plunging toward them. He shouted out, "Rostam, a great rock is rolling down the mountain." Rostam made no move. He didn't even put down the wild ass he was roasting. Zavaray hung back in alarm. Rostam waited till the boulder was almost on him, and the dust it sent up had obscured the mountain above. Then he kicked it contemptuously aside. Zavaray and Rostam's son, Feramos, cheered, but Bahman was horrified at the exploit and said, "If Esfandyar fights with such a warrior, he'll humiliate himself. It'll be better if he treats him politely and circumspectly. If Rostam gets the better of Esfandyar in combat, he will be able to conquer all Iran." Bahman remounted his horse, and with his heart full of foreboding, descended the mountain slope. He told a priest of the wonder he had seen, and made his way by an easier path at the foot of the mountain toward Rostam. As he approached Rostam, he turned to a companion and said, "Who is this? I think he's someone from Gosthap's clan." Then he caught sight of Bahman's retinue waiting on the mountainside and grew suspicious. He and Zavaray and the rest of the hunting party went forward to greet their guest. Bahman quickly dismounted, and greeting Rostam civilly, Rostam said, "You'll get nothing from me until you tell me who you are." Bahman replied, "I am Esfandyar's son, chief of the Persians. I am Bahman." And Rostam immediately embraced him and apologized for his tardy welcome. Together they made their way back to Rostam's camp, and when Bahman had sat himself down, he greeted Rostam formally and conveyed to him the greetings of the king and his nobility. Then he went on, "Esfandyar has come here and pitched camp by River Hermond, as the king ordered him. If you will hear me out, I bring you a message from him." Rostam replied, "Prince, you've taken a great deal of trouble and traversed a great deal of ground. First we should eat, and then the world is at your disposal." A cloth was spread on the ground, and soft bread was placed on it. Then Rostam set a roasted wild ass, its flesh still hot, before Bahman. He called for his brother, Zavaray, to sit with them, and not the rest of his companions. He had another wild ass brought, since it was his custom to eat a whole animal all by himself. He sprinkled it with salt, cut the meat off, and set it, and Bahman watched him. He ate a little of the wild ass's meat, but less than 1/100th of the amount Rostam consumed. Rostam laughed and said, "A prince who's so abstemious surely needs an army to assist him in his deeds. I've heard that in your father's battles you fought with him. What exactly did you do? You eat a little. You're too weak to wield a warrior's weapons on the battlefield." Bahman replied, "A noble prince will neither talk at length nor eat too much. He'd rather save his strength for battles than for banquets, since it's war that shows a warrior's worth, not who eats more." Rostam laughed loud and long, and he said, "A fighting spirit won't stay hidden long." He called for enough wine to sink a ship. Filling a golden goblet, he toasted the memory of noble heroes, then handed another to Bahman and said, "Toast whoever you want to." Seeing the proffered goblet, Bahman hesitated, so Feramos drank first, saying, "You're a princely child. We hope you enjoy the wine and our drinking together." Bahman took the goblet and reluctantly drank a little. He was as astonished by Rostam's capacity for food and drink as he was by his massive body, arms, and shoulder. When they had finished their meal, the two heroes rode together for a while, side by side, and Bahman told Rostam the details of Esfandyar's message. And here is where I end my tale for today. I'll be back tomorrow with more tales, many more tales. Until then, my friends,